Hi everybody and welcome to, I think it's number 20 of the match memories. Really enjoyed doing them. Going to carry on. A little bit of a twist though, that a couple of the other consultants are going to get involved and give you some of their match memories, which I think is absolutely fantastic. The anglers that Daiwa have got at their disposal now, they've won, so much between them. Fished in so many different places. And it'll be good. I can't wait to watch them myself, to be honest, to hear their match memories and to get involved and, like in the stories, and, it almost makes you feel like you're there. So I'm not too sure who's going to be doing the next one, but it will be one of the Daiwa consultants, and I'm sure it'll be well worth the watch. I just thought for this one I'd bring you right up to date, something that's right in my eye line, something that's really lit my fire. As you all know, I've been fishing a few qualifiers, a few golden reels, and I think it's golden rod actually. I get a little bit confused there. But one event in the south of England that has come to light in the past couple of years is the South East Reservoir Championships. Most of the qualifiers are held at Bowel Beach, which is a venue that I've fished right back since the 90s. We used to fish Super Leagues there and various other matches. So I thought it's fitting to bring you right up to date to the match that I actually fished there on Sunday. Talk you through it. It's quite a successful day. Like I say, just going on to Bowel Beach itself, just a little talk about the venue. It's absolutely beautiful. You will be hard pressed to find it anywhere more picturesque, tranquil, quiet. It just is a fantastic, fantastic place. It's run superbly well. Ken Crow and his partner, I think they've got the lease on it now, and they're doing a fantastic job. Like I say, it is just... I actually went there Saturday and Sunday. Unfortunately, there wasn't a match there Saturday. I thought there was going to be a small match, but it turned out there wasn't. So, speaking to Ken, he did let me pleasure fish there, practice, and it was fantastic. Got there nice and early, just as the mist was coming up. And I literally just sat on the dam wall having a cup of coffee, and it was just one of those moments where you almost felt like you were on holiday. Like I say, fantastic place. And I did start going there back, I think it was almost the late 90s we started fishing Super Leagues there, middle to late 90s. I'd certainly fished it in the middle 90s, being in some open matches. It was a venue that came to light, and it was fantastic. It still is. But back in the early days, 40, 50, 60 pound wasn't uncommon. In fact, in the Super Leagues, you were fishing for 40 to 50 pound just to win your section. Bream, skimmers, the roach and that didn't really seem to play a part. And I want to just talk to you about the history and my history of Bowel Beach before I go on to the qualifier that I fished there Sunday and the practice session Saturday, which, didn't really... I learnt a lot in practice, but again, we'll talk about that in a second. But going back to the Super Leagues, I can remember you've got the dam wall, then you've got 3 or 4 natural sections. So you've got Lone Tree Point on the far side, you've got the grassy bank, you've got Woody Point, and then you've got the rowing, the yachting station bank. Then obviously you normally have about 30 pegs around the dam wall, and it's a concrete sloping bank, tower in the middle which divides the two halves. Just beautiful, comfortable, there's no mud. Little bit of a walk to be fair, but again it's nice and flat, it's all concrete, nothing that a decent trolley, can't overcome. And like I say, pole over the years has played its part there, but it's been like 95% feeder. You might have seen they've had some big feeder matches there. I actually fished a 3-day there myself last year and caught plenty of fish. Just put my phone on silent, somebody's just texted me. But a fantastic place, like I say, and going back over the years, I've had weights there, 40, 50 pound. I remember we had a 2-day Super League there, and I think I caught 32 pound and 52 pound, all on the feeder. Used to fish the Daiwa Harrier feeders, casting like 50 tons, and bearing in mind back then we didn't have rods and reels at our disposal like we have now. Now we've got, you know, the TDX distances, we've got the SLR rods where you can fish 50, 60 metres comfortably with a decent sized feeder and put a lot of bait in. But back then it was like 12, 13 foot connoisseur rods. A 4,000 reel was about the biggest you could get as far as match fishing is concerned. Used to fish like technium line and Maxima line, but we used to catch massive weights. And I remember on one match there I drew in the bird sanctuary, which is again on the far side, as far right as you can go, and I had quite a slow hour, and then I just started catching bream and skimmers, and I weighed in 99 pounds. I'm sure that was a practice match for a Super League, so it just shows you, you know, the sort of calibre of the fishing that you can have at Bowel Beach. Don't get me wrong, it's a little bit like Ireland. Some days you go there and you just can't catch much, but that's where the pole comes in. There's a massive head of not just roach but perch in there. The one problem you've got now, which we didn't have in the old days, are the pike. There's a fantastic head of pike in there. Beautiful fish as well, massive fish. I had a few fish taken Sunday, and at one stage I was getting quite frustrated, losing hook lengths. Every decent fish I seemed to hook, a pike would have. You hook a small roach or a small perch, they just ignore it. And I actually had one as I was skimming a 6-ounce roach across the surface. It came at the roach so fast it sort of overshot the roach and came in between my box leg and my side tray leg and just turned around and just wandered out as if nothing had happened. So like I say, it's a fantastic place. Also a massive head of carp in there now. I think they've got over 600 fish there, up to around £50. And when you get there early in the mornings you can see an odd bivvy dotted around. So it really is, you never really know what you're going to get. Obviously in matches you know it's going to be bream, roach and perch. But there are, you know, it's just one of those places that you would never really know what's in there. Absolutely gorgeous. So coming on to the weekend, like I said, I went there Saturday, fished permanent peg 5 on the wall, which is one past the steps, which is a fantastic area. But again, like we spoke in the past about practicing, I don't want to go and sit on a, you know, complete no hope where I'm not going to get any bites. I want to go and find out if I get an opportunity in a match to win, if I draw well, how am I going to catch these fish? Now my practice session was built purely around the feeder. The pole I feel at home with. I've done a lot of roach fishing over the years, and I wanted to really commit Saturday to just making sure my braid's right, my shock leaders, my feeders, rods, reels are obviously fine, but not just that, it's getting your setup right. Now you go to a place like Bowel Beach, and I'm a massive, you know, I'm always saying to people you have to be comfortable, you have to have everything to hand, and one of the aims of the day was to get my setup right. Obviously I use a Daiwa seat box with extendable legs. It's absolutely rock solid. I can pop that in the water. You can't go over 50 centimetres. That's just a rule that they come up with at Bowel Beach, which is a brilliant rule, because that way you all keep in line and no one takes the mickey wading miles out, which you could do on a lot of it at Bowel Beach. Some of it's very shallow, especially on the natural banks. So the 50 centimetre rule is fantastic. Your back legs of your box can't be in more than 50 centimetres of water, which I think is brilliant. So Saturday morning, got my setup right, was happy with everything. I took all my side trays. Like I say, it's not too far to walk to peg 5. Took all my side trays, took a couple of different rod rests, made sure that I got everything right. And, you know, then once I'd got that right, I could then concentrate on the fishing. Now I set up 3 rods. I set up 2 12-foot SLRs, with the medium white tip. It's just a tip that I use there a lot. The red one, because you're casting, I was aiming to fish 60 metres. 010 braid, £10 shock leader. I've got various different feeders. Got all the, you know, the rocket type feeders, the window feeders, as well as the new range of all the end zone feeders, which is actually the feeder that I ended up using. They cast like an absolute dream. You can get a lot of bait in them and they cast dead straight, especially if you get a bit of a side wind. And on these big reservoirs, as you know, you don't need much of a wind for it to be, you know, to sort of hamper your casting a little bit. And it's of utmost importance that you're accurate. Now, around about 60 metres, I probably had, I would have said, around 26 to 30 feet. It's very, very hard to say when you're casting that distance. But an 1.5 ounce bomb was taking about a count of 15 to sink. And also spoke to one of the guys that runs the fishery, and he said at 60 metres off the dam wall it's around 26, 28 feet. So that's a brilliant little heads up. Having known that, and I obviously worked the count out, it's good for when you draw other areas of the lake and you know you want to fish in that depth of water. And that's something at Bowel Beach you have to do. To catch those bigger bream and bigger skimmers, they're definitely in the deep water if you can find it. Obviously, you know, you go to Grassy Bank, the bird sanctuary, you've got 10, 12 foot as far as you cast. And as it happens on Sunday's match, the match was actually won by Pem on Grassy Bank with about £48, I think, of decent skimmers and an odd bream. So well done, Pem. So Saturday, like I say, the name of the game, I had those 2 rods set up, put one with a window feeder on, one with an ends on cage, easily cast 60 metres, no problem. But also put a feeding rod up. Now this one had a real big Guru feeding feeder, bait up feeder. 018 braid, had a castism reel on it, again not for any other reason other than I've got 3 TDX distances and I like to use those on the rods that I'm fishing with. Castism's fantastic. Now just one little tip when you're looking for a rod to actually bait up with. Sometimes feeder rods aren't quite powerful enough, and proper carp type rods, 12 foot 3-4 pound test curve rods, for me are miles too stiff. Now the rod that I've started using a lot is a Power Mesh 12 foot 2¼ pound floater rod, and it's really in between. It's almost like a barbely type rod, and it's absolutely perfect for baiting up. So if you're struggling to find a rod to bait up with, have a good look at them. Not only is it the perfect action, it's powerful enough to cast a feeder out, but you get a bit of a bend with carp rods when you cast in, you know, a feeder. You don't really compress the blank, you don't get the best out of it, but these type of rods you definitely do. Also it's 12 foot, which is perfect because it's exactly the same as the rods I'm fishing with. So when I'm getting my wraps right, which I do at home, I normally make my mind up what distance I'm going to fish before I actually go. So Saturday's match, I fed 20 feeder loads, put a few pellets in, a little bit of corn, held back on the worms and the maggots and the casters because there are a few little perch and a few little daddy rough in there, which can be a bit of a pain if you go a bit over the top with the worms. Had a real slow start, started on 4 maggots, real slow start. I also set a waggler up as well, which I had a quick go on, absolutely blitzed with little roach, so that was sort of dismissed quite quick. Wanted to try and catch some decent fish on the feeder. Cut a long story short, all of a sudden after about an hour and a half started to get an odd liner which I knew was a better fish, and all of a sudden the tips just moved with a more positive, and because I'm fishing braid I'm not striking, I'm literally just picking the rod up and start to wind. I had about a pound skimmer on. I caught quite a few nice skimmers up to about a pound, and as the session went on I was getting odd liners. I changed to a window feeder, started putting like corn, pellets and just a tiny bit of ground bait. Again maggots on the hook, caught a few on worms as well, but the last 7 fish were all between 3 and 5 pound. They just moved in. So as you can imagine I was happy not only with my setup, my gear, obviously using the green bream ground bait, which is something that, you know, I just would not go to a bream or skimmer venue without. I said it before and I'm going to say it again, it isn't just the fish you catch with the Advantage bait, ground bait. It's a fish you get in your peg. It's the liners, the indications. You know, it attracts fish, which is what ground bait should do. Also in this deep water, with all the Advantage bait range, it breaks up quick, which is a massive advantage. You cast your feeder out, it hits the bottom, it breaks up quick and deposits 100% of your feeder load on the spot. It's not creating that trail coming back where your ground bait's not breaking up or too sticky. So like I say, personally, wouldn't go without it. Ultimately confident, caught some big fish, packed up reasonably early just to get home because I knew I had to tie a few hook lengths, sorted my bait out for the qualifying match the next day. That was all done. Didn't really need to do much, was happy with the braid, the shock leaders, the feeders, just needed to sort, like I say, some maggots and casters, worms, and obviously prepare the ground bait. So Sunday morning came round. I wasn't going to leave home till about 6:30. Draw started, I think, at about 8 o'clock. Mark Hayes does a fantastic job of social distancing. He'll just literally call your name out, draw your peg for you, and away you go. Absolutely brilliantly run. Sunday morning came round. Now, bearing in mind, you can't just dismiss the pole. There's pegs there where you can go and win your section, maybe even win the match on the pole. The end pegs seem to be quite good, especially on the dam wall, peg 1, and I think it's 33. Well, 1, 2 and 3, and the end 2 or 3 as well. As well as some weights in the middle and on the other banks. You can't dismiss the pole. So, early Sunday morning, 2 bags of green bream were mixed up. And then I kept separate from that. So that was my feeder bream mix. And then separate from that, I had a mix of 3 bags of the sweet fish meal, which is only 7% fibre, so it's quite, weak as far as, the power of it's concerned. But it's quite hempy. It's got about 15% of crushed and grilled hemp in it, 7% of coriander, so it's a real nice, sort of bubbly, fizzy mix, perfect for these roach, skimmers, hybrid type fish. So that was done. I had a pint of dead maggots with me just in case. Kilo and a bit of worms. I had a few worms left over from the day before, where I didn't really use many. Only took half a kilo to practice with, but I had a kilo for the match. 4 or 5 tins of corn, my ground bait. I also took 3 pints of casters and 3 pints of hemp. Now, it sounds like a lot of bait, but obviously there's pegs you draw where you're just going to fish a feeder, where the hemp and casters and that can stay in the cool bag and will do for another day. Obviously, there's pegs you draw and you will fish a feeder and a pole. So, got there, had a fantastic catch up with some of the lads. Obviously, I've been fishing a few qualifiers on commercials, but you see different people at these, and just to catch up with guys like, Gary Pook and Simon Willsmore came for a walk along, Simon Wheeler, Tommy Ilio, all the guys. It was just fantastic, and almost, it made you realise how important the social side of match fishing is. Had a fantastic chat, we had a good laugh, reminisced a little bit, and then we all went off for a nice day's fishing. When it came to my turn to draw, Mark drew my peg out, number 1. Couldn't believe it. Absolutely over the moon with it. The only niggling worry I had was I'd obviously fished peg 5, and my section was 1 to 8, or 1 to 9. And obviously I'm thinking I put a lot of bait in there yesterday. Have I messed myself up? Is this guy going to just chuck out and start catching bream and skimmers? And, there'd been weights. I think the week before there was a 15 pound off my peg, which did win the section. The week before that, 26 pound, and they'd caught short. I made a couple of quick phone calls. A real good friend of mine, Darren Davis, one of the best anglers in the country by a mile. At all different disciplines, absolutely fantastic, because I knew he'd had a weight of roach there a couple of weeks before, and he told me exactly what to do. So basically my approach was I was still going to feed a feed line, even though where you end peg you're quite near the natural bank, so it's a lot shallower, probably only about 12 or 14 foot. Decided to fish a tiny bit closer, 57 metres, but and like I say, my approach was literally to loose feed hemp and casters on a top 6, put 7 or 8 balls in long, with some casters, some hemp, a little bit of chop worm, and I was planning to start either on a single caster, single maggot, or even a tiny pea bit of a worm. At the beginning of the match, however, I deposited 20 big feeder falls out, 57 metres, just in case you go on the pole and it doesn't happen. Went on the pole, started getting some bites immediately. I set up a 1.25 and a 2 gram Gloucester, and I set up a 0.75 Gloucester for short and a little straight float that Tamas gave me. I just love them when it's still and you're catching lots of fish. And in my mind, I just thought, well, I'll catch a few fish long and then I'll just come short where everyone's told me you're going to catch fish. It was next to a good friend of mine. Again, I've known him for years, Terry Harrison. He's still emptying it everywhere he goes. Don't know how he does it. Every time I've seen Terry for the last 35 years, he's just catching loads of fish and winning all the time. So it's nice again to spend a day next to Terry. But cut a long story short, caught well on the long pole, odd decent roach, very, very odd skimmer. I had 4 or 5 nice perch and a few little perch. Kept coming close and just never had a bite. Terry set a couple of whips up next to me and also fished a feeder, and he was catching skimmers nicely on the feeder. Looking down the section, that's the beauty of Bowel Beach, you can see all of your section. But looking down the section, just going to have a sip of my coffee before it goes totally cold. I've been out on the lakes early this morning, just doing the rubbish and everything, so need a cup of coffee just to wake me up. So anyway, just keeping an eye on my section, and I was ticking along nicely. Got up to 100 fish with about an hour and 40 minutes to go. Again, kept coming short, just couldn't get a bite. Terry had been on the whip. I think he caught one very small roach. But it became noticeable. Obviously, I had a lot of pike problems, was getting very frustrated. You know, you catch tiny roach, tiny perch, and then you hook a decent roach and the pikes took it. It's so frustrating, you know, and your hook length's gone, you've got to put another hook length on. And it was really, you know, I found it very hard to sort of keep my concentration when this was happening. But again, having fished a lot of qualifiers on a lot of different venues, you know that every ounce counts. So I saw myself with an hour to go making a decision that I didn't think I would have to do. I just thought I'd catch on the long pole and then catch short, catch 25, 30 pound and win the section easy. I actually went on the feeder with about 50 minutes to go, and this was a decision that I think ultimately got me into the final. Caught 4 or 5 decent skimmers, a hybrid and a decent perch. I lost a decent perch as well, which came off giving it a little bit too much stick, trying to get it through these pike. But what was strange was Terry never hooked a pike all day, and when I was on the feeder, I never hooked a pike either. No pike trouble whatsoever. It makes you wonder sometimes if the feeder just spooks the pike out the way and then the fish follows. I don't know, because I know a lot of people do get problems on the feeder as well. So it's very hard to say. Being on peg 1, drew scales. Terry was on board, so we did the weighing in. Now, if you've qualified, you can still fish the qualifiers, but obviously, you know, if I win the section, say this Sunday when I'm going, whoever's second will qualify. Brian Nesbitt, probably the most consistent angler at Bowel Beach. Brilliant feeder angler, brilliant angler, but fantastic with bream on the feeder. There's not many better at all. He weighed in 16.10, and I was delighted to weigh in 16.10 as well. So we were joint first in the section, and more importantly for me, qualified on my first attempt. There's some brilliant anglers been fishing all those qualifiers and they haven't qualified yet. So I was a bit thankful to the drawing gods for getting me the end peg, and Mark Hayes in particular for drawing me the end peg, but you still got to catch them. A little bit disappointed in a way, because, you know, Bowel Beach, you go there and every day is just unique and different. And I thought, oh, I'm on an end, you know, I could catch a massive weight of roach. I've had 40 pound of roach before at Bowel Beach on the pole, but that was a fair few years ago. I've had various different weights on the pole as well. But again, packing up, it wouldn't have mattered if I'd have caught a pound but still qualified. That was the main thing. Lessons learnt as well. Obviously, I fished 12 metres on my air pole. Just a joy to use, you know. But I think top 6 and 12 metres, I should have come up with and fed one line in between. You know, as much as I like to give myself options in matches, you can't overdo it. You know, for instance, your choices at Bowel Beach are short pole, short feeder, long feeder. It's almost impossible to do all 4 and keep them all fed and primed for when you want to go on it. But again, I've said it in match fishing, you know, you've got to rely on your watercraft, you've got to rely on that gut feeling that you get. And with an hour to go, I'm thinking to myself, hang on, this pole line's gone completely. I'm catching an odd tiny fish. When I do hook a very odd better fish, a pike eats it. Switch to the feeder, and I probably caught 2 pound on that. Terry weighed in 13 pounds, so without that 2 pound on the feeder, it would have been very, very, very close indeed. Delighted to qualify. Can't wait for the final, which is at the end of September. I'm there this weekend coming, and the following weekend we've got a 2-dayer there, which I cannot wait. Really, these natural venues, especially Bowel Beach. I'm trying to get a ticket for Ardenley as well, and there is a festival there which I'm booked into, which I think is going to be late October. So can't wait. Absolutely thrilled to be through. Like I say, a 2-day final. It is on weight, so you know you're going to have one good day, I would have thought. But I've looked back already, been studying the weights. Last year it was on points. Brian Nesbitt won it, an angler that I've already mentioned, who will be very, very hard to beat. But it is on weight this year. Last year it was on points. So I've studied it back, and I'm thinking to myself, if you can catch £20 a day, you could well frame. To win, you'll probably need a £40 and a £20, but £20 a day. So my aim for all the practices is to try and catch around £20, so that the first day you're not out of it. There's some areas where that's going to be very, very hard to do. Either side of the tower seems to be a bit more difficult, but £14 or £15 would probably be your target weight there. Like I say, there's lots and lots of good matches on, and it's what lights your fire. I've got one more golden reel at Larford to come, but until the final at Bowel Beach, I'm just going to concentrate at Bowel Beach. I'm the kind of angler that I need to concentrate on one type of fishing at a time to get the best out of myself, my preparation and my practice. It stood me in good stead in the past with World and European Championships, just taking time out from the domestic side. And that's why, you know, the matches here at Gold Valley have started again. I didn't fish the match Saturday. I went and practiced, and I'm just concentrating on that one discipline, because that is one final that, given the chance, I would love to win. Like I say, few people qualifying for these big matches. Got the Fishermania final coming up. Be sure not to miss that. I think it's going to be on Sky. Be fantastic. Local lad from here, John Lights, qualified. Awesome, awesome angler. If he gets a chance, he could upset one of the big boys like Jamie Hughes or even Andy Bennett. You never ever know. It's going to be a fantastic final. But, like I say, good luck to everyone in the final. Make sure you enjoy it, and more importantly, make sure you fish positive. I will certainly be watching it on telly. If you're out this weekend, it's going to be a bit blustery, quite a bit of rain about, but again, I think we need it. A lot of venues suffering with low oxygen at the moment, so overcast and wind. The rain's not really too good for the oxygen levels, but the wind is what we need. We need the wind to get this oxygen level back up on a lot of venues. But if you are out, don't forget your brolly, don't forget your waterproofs, make sure you're nice and comfortable, and until next time, I'll see you soon, and good luck wherever you end up this weekend. Bye bye.